Hi everyone, good afternoon all. It's privilege to have Mohammad Nizaruddin, who is a Sitecore MVP. Today he'll take us through the site session on Sitecore Docker 0 to Hero Part 2. On behalf of Sukhchennai, welcoming Nizar for this webinar, extending my warm welcome to all the participants. So over to Nizar, we are excited to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, Vinodani. So hope you have started the recording, right?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you all for joining the session. Uh, this is the agenda for the session. Okay. So we'll start with recap on the previous session. Then we'll see how custom Sitecore images are created and how to build Sitecore solution. Then we'll discuss about building a custom Sitecore image and how to add Sitecore models and how to deploy files into running container. Then I'll explain some key concept and other Docker tools which we can leverage. If you have a time, I'll explain how to debug code running in containers. Also, we'll see how to apply configuration transforms. Okay. Then we can close the session with Q&A. So hope you have got some idea about Docker in the last session. If you missed the last session, you can find the recordings in the SUG Chennai website. Okay. This session will focus more on demos. Last session, we discussed about some of the challenges organization facing currently. We have seen what is the difference between VM and container. So instead of virtualizing the hardware stock, containers virtualize at the operating system level. So it is quite faster. Okay. So we discussed about what benefit Docker brings to the business if business adopts containerization. Okay. Then we have talked about container-based Sitecore development. Okay, Sitecore provides container images which are ready to use and how the onboarding is simplified we've seen. Then I have covered Docker and its terminologies. On the terminologies, I explained image. Image means it serves as a blueprint for creating a container. Docker file, it's a text document format that contain instruction for assembling a Docker image. Registry, a place where you store image. Repository contains a collection of image with the same name. Tag, a reference to the specific image within the repository. Container, instance of image, it consists of the content of the Docker image and an execution environment. Compose, it's used to define how multi-container application run. Orchestrator helps you to deploy and manage containers in production. As you know, right, Kubernetes is the most used. Also, we have discussed what are the prerequisites to set up the environment, and we ran our first out-of-the-box Sitecore instance on containerization, right? And also, we've seen some CLI concepts, right, and comments. So this session will focus more into creating custom Sitecore images. So what is custom Sitecore image? Creating Sitecore container image with your solution code and modules layered on the base runtime images provided by the Sitecore. Okay. So all we need to do is to create images. If you run the image, then the container will be spin up. Okay. This diagram shows how custom Sitecore images are created. Sitecore provide base runtime images for all roles. Okay, CM, CD, Xconnect, etc. Okay, we can pull the Sitecore runtime base image from the Sitecore official container registry. So here you can see that we are pulling from ser.sitecore.com. It's the official container registry of Sitecore. Okay, they also provide base runtime images for SQL and Solar. Okay, but it is recommended for dev use only. When we move to production, instead of running SQL and Solar on container, we can use managed cloud database of SQL and set up Solar in dedicated server, or you can use search tags and connect them from other containers, since the data will be lost if we restart the container. Okay. Sitecore provide officially supported modules, which is called asset image. So see here, they are providing image for PowerShell, XSS, JSS, etc. Also, they have created images for supporting script as an asset image. This tool image contains entry point script, watch script. We'll explain them in detail during the demo. See here, the build output from the solution is layered along with the other assets, modules, and tools onto the base runtime Sitecore images. Okay, so like that you can create our own custom images. Once the custom images is ready, right? Okay, so you can push the images to your private registry on CI pipeline. Okay, and you can pull it on CD pipeline at the time of deployment. We'll cover how to pull the image from to repository as part of the Kubernetes session I have planned in the future. Okay, hope you are clear. Okay, so this is how the custom images are getting created on Sitecore container. Okay, so can I move to the next topic? Okay, okay, it's a demo time. Okay, we will, as I said, now we'll spend more time on demo. Okay, so I have cloned the Docker example repository. Okay, so we have two folder getting started on custom image. The getting starter folder contains the required files and folders for setting up the vanilla instance of Sitecore. Okay, so so today we are going to use custom image folder. Okay, so which the files and folder we can use to leverage. We can leverage to create custom Sitecore images. Okay, if you look at the folder and files, Sitecore development. Okay, so this is the physical view. Okay, so I can show you the logical view. I have opened this folder into the Visual Studio Code. So Sitecore development with Docker introduced a new folder called Docker. Okay, the Docker folder contains files and folders to support Docker development. Okay, we'll explain detail. Okay, in the coming slide and the coming sooner. Okay, so you can keep the solution code in the source folder. Okay, so we have the source code here in this under the source folder, and we have some files. I'll explain one by one in detail, but high level we have Docker compose file and override file and ignore file, Docker ignore file and Docker file runtime file. Okay, all these things. Okay, the Docker compose file, if you see, so this is the main configuration file used by the Docker compose command. Okay, so while you are spinning up the containers, you will be using PowerShell command. Okay, so you'll be I can show you. Okay, so using this command, okay, you will be spinning up all the containers. Okay, so if you run this command, okay, um, so it will come and take this Docker compose file as a reference, and it will build all the required containers. Okay, so for Sitecore, the service generally represent the individual Sitecore roles that make up the topology. Okay, MS SQL, um, Redis, Solar, CMCD, identity server, everything you can see here. Okay, and we also have Terrafic, okay, which is used as a reverse proxy for local setup. Okay, and also we have environment file. The values here provide default values for any environment variables, which is referenced in the compose file. So for example, if you see Docker compose file, so here they are referencing values from the environment file, Sitecore Docker registry, right? This value is passed from environment file. So you can see here, we have provided the value for this registry. Okay, and we have a supporting script, okay, init script, okay, which performs all the operation steps automatically. Okay, so before you spin up the containers, you have to run the init script to complete the preparation steps. Okay, so if you run this init script, the environment file will be filled up. Okay, and the license will be converted into base 64 format. All these things this init script will take care. So if you download the package from the Sitecore official download page, okay, then you may not have this init file. So it's a community developed one, okay. So but in the Docker example repository, you can find this init script. Okay, and we have some NuGet files and package file, all these things. Okay. So first I'll explain in detail about the solution Docker file, this one. Okay, and the Docker image build process and how you can use it to build your Sitecore solution image. Okay, so this is the root Docker file. As I said in the previous session, right? So you have to write Docker file as the first step in containerizing your application. A Docker file contain instruction that Docker uses to assemble Docker image. The Docker community often name this type as build Docker file. Okay, the Docker file is focused solely. This Docker file is focused solely on building your solution and storing the output as structured build artifacts on the resulting image. Okay, so with the typical Sitecore implementation, a single Visual Studio solution usually create build artifact such as website and Xconnect assemblies and files, right? So for multiple roles, and some artifact must be deployed to multiple roles. Okay, so the files may be deployed to CMCD, etc. Right? For containers, this means that the same build output must be layered on top of the multiple base Sitecore runtime images. Okay, so you have to build your solution image and you have to layer on top of CMCD along with other set images, either the module or the supporting script image. Okay. Okay. Now we'll show you how to layer the solution code and the models to the CMCD Xconnect roles to create custom images for the specific role. You could instead duplicate the build instruction for each Sitecore image, but this would be very inefficient. So this is the right approach. Okay, what we are seeing now. Okay, so if you see at the beginning, right? Yeah, preparation stage is used to gather only artifacts necessary for NuGet restore. A new builder stage initiates the code compilation and build process, and the cell instruction that switch the default cell to PowerShell from the default comment for all subsequent instruction. Next, we are creating a working directory. The NuGet artifact collected earlier are copied in, and NuGet restore is performed. After the restore, the remainder of the source code is copied in. The transform files are collected at cout transform folder. Okay, why we need transform? Okay, Sitecore implementation often require modification of configuration file that you cannot change with Sitecore configuration patching, right? Such as web config, connection string config, right? Domain, layer config, and others, right? In this case, you can use XTD transform files. Okay, so for that reason, we are having this transform concept. Okay, so next, the build is performed for the build configuration. You can see here. The Docker example repository contain two projects, okay, which I have opened here. Yeah, so website folder, it contains two project Xconnect and the website folder, website project. Okay, so we need to build these two projects. So that is what we are doing here with this MS build, and by passing the build configuration, and the results are taken in C output website for the website project and C out Xconnect for the Xconnect project. Okay, so after the build is completed, the build output for the final image is collected. For this stage, Microsoft Nano Servers image is used. So see here we are getting base image. So here if you see the base image, we are using Nano Server, right? So it is passed to the Docker file. Because this image only delivers files and it is never run, the base image is selected for its optimized size, much smaller than other runtime images. The output files are copied in the builder stage to our final image with the below structure. Okay, so you can see from the builder stage, we are getting the output in this C out website. We are copying that into um, under C artifact and website folder. Same way we are doing for transform and Xconnect. Okay, so this is how you have to write Docker file. Okay, so you must send this Docker file through Docker build command. Sorry. So Docker build command. So you can build like this. Okay, so you can use Docker Compose build and solution. Then it will go and take Docker Compose file, and here Docker Compose override file we have defined solution, right? So here it will take the current Docker file and it will start building. Okay. So using the Docker build command, we can produce an image for the solution. Okay, that consists of only build artifacts. Okay, the resulting solution image is never intended to run in Docker containers. Such images are called asset images, I said earlier. Okay, so you can see here the code compilation and build are part of Docker files instruction, right? So building your application directly in Docker file like this has some advantage over more traditional build. So I can call out few here. So main first one is portability, right? The entire build process is containerized. So build agent and local environments do not need to have anything installed other than Docker. Okay, and we have control over the build environment. The solution owns which build dependency and which versions are used. Then it plays nicely in the Docker ecosystem. Builds can be triggered using Docker commands, and retrieving build from artifact for using another image is simple with Docker from instruction, right? An optional Docker ignore can be used. So this is the file. Okay, to exclude files and folders from the build context. Okay, so it helps reducing the size and skipping sensitive data in copy and add commands. Okay, so we'll see how to configure the solution image in Docker Compose. Okay. So the Docker Compose override file is where you define the solution image build, as I told now, right? So as I said in the previous session, right, the Docker Compose override YAML file extend the main file, which overrides the extension necessary for custom Sitecore image build. For any Docker Compose command, okay, so the Docker Compose override file is automatically included along with the main Docker Compose file, unless you specify otherwise. Okay. So if you see here, the build context is set to dot, right, to tell the Docker Compose to use the build Docker file at the same location. So here, the same location, we have this Docker file. This is the file used for building the image. Okay, and also you can see the replica is set to 0, so that the container for the solution service is not started during a Docker Compose up. Okay, so to build the solution image alone, okay, so what you can do, you can use Docker Compose build solution. Okay, so it is started to build the image. Okay, so the different steps are performed here. Okay, and it will build. Okay, so I already ran this command, so it's quick. Otherwise, the first time it will take a little bit extra time. Okay, the image is built. Okay, and it's tagged as Docker example solution. Okay, with the version tag version latest. Okay, so to confirm the image was created. Okay, so you can use Docker images command to list all the images in the local. Okay, so here you can find, right, so Docker example solution with the tag latest. Okay, one common troubleshooting problem unique to the solution image or any other asset image is that because it's never run as a container, so it might not be obvious how you can explore the resulting file system. Correct. So you can do this by running the image with an interactive cell. Okay, so to open interactive command prompt, okay, So we have a command. I already have that noted down. Okay. So if you type, if you want to see the directories, okay, so see here, the image contains transform folder, website folder, and Xconnect folder. Okay, if you go to any of the folder, right? So you can see the directories, and you can see all the files as well. Okay, so like that you can explore the image, asset image. Okay, so you can also after exploring, if you want to come out, you can type exit to remove the temporary container and return to the PowerShell session, main session. Okay. Okay, so now the solution image is ready, and this can be layered in the required roles such as CMCD and Xconnect roles. Okay. So before we start building the custom Sitecore image, we'll understand the solution structure and what is Sitecore runtime Docker files. Okay, first we'll see the build folder and its contents. Okay. Each service or containers has its own folders. Okay, in our case, Sitecore, we have different roles, right? For all the roles, we have one folder. Okay, it contains a minimum Docker file. This is the Docker Sitecore Docker runtime file. Okay, this is used as the Docker build context for the corresponding service in the Docker compose file. Okay, we use this Sitecore runtime Docker file to build our customized version of Sitecore runtime images. Earlier we've seen how to build our solution image. Now we'll see how to uh, create our custom Sitecore runtime images, which means CMCD custom images. Okay. Let's see CM Docker file. So here multi stage is initialized. Okay, so we are passing parameter, the base image, the solution image, and other model images. Okay, and here development tools are also copied in. Okay, working directory is set as root instance, www root. Sitecore modules are added, PowerShell and XSA. I'll explain that in detail. This is the main part. Files from the solution build image are copied in. If you recall, the output files are stored on the solution image at artifact website, right? So we are getting that, we are copying all the files and folders from this folder to the root instance, root of the instance. Okay, www root folder. Okay, then solution transform and role transforms are copied to the web root. Okay, we'll discuss that as well in detail in coming slide. Okay, depending on your Sitecore item serialization framework and strategy, your CM Docker file may have additional instruction here to add items. Okay, I'll cover that in the coming session. Okay, so I have planned one session. So it will cover that either the unicorn or TDS, how we have to integrate this solution and take it to the container. Okay, we will create a Sitecore runtime Docker file for each role, as I said, right? So we have Docker file for CD, CM, all these roles. Okay. So even if you do not have any customization at this time, okay, this is recommended because there is a dedicated layer for you to make hard fixes or future customization. Okay, you will be having your own resulting image that you can name, tag, label, and store as your solution needs, right? So for that reason, you have to better you can keep Docker file for all roles. Okay. So if you open the INT server Docker file, okay, it does not have any info, right? As I said, this is recommended, so I kept this. It's a time to see how to configure build for custom Sitecore runtime images in the Docker Compose override file. Okay. If you look at CM container, the build context is set to Docker build CM. So Docker build CM. So Docker Compose uses this Sitecore runtime file, okay, located in this folder, okay, and depends on set to solution. So to ensure the solution is built first, variable values are sourced from the environment file. Okay. The rest of the Sitecore runtime images are configured in the similar fashion. Okay, there are some additional properties configured for some of them, such as volumes, entry point, right? They are not used in image build process and will be used only in runtime. I'll explain that as well. Even though the Docker build file is preferred way to build your solution, you can still need to use more traditional ways as well. Okay, and you can use MS build in combination with task runner or custom PowerShell script or other build tools. Okay, you may need it because there is a limitation from your legacy code base or build process, right? Okay, so in that case, you can go with the legacy approach to adjust traditional build. Okay, ensure the build output makes its way to the Docker build folders. Okay, so that require it. So in this case, make sure the build output goes to the CM folder and the CD folder and the Xconnect folder wherever you record that files. Okay. So this is necessary so that the build artifacts are part of individual Docker files build context. Okay. Then remove this solution from the Docker Compose override file and go to your runtime Docker file, and instead of copying it from the solution and take it from the local build context. Okay, that's it. Okay, so to build Sitecore, all Sitecore images, right? So earlier we build only solution image, right? So you can if you're not passing any service name, right, then it will go and build all the it will initiate the build process for a build solution image, and then all the custom Sitecore runtime images defined in the Docker Compose file. Okay, so already I built it, so I'm not gonna build, but with this command you can build. Okay, so to confirm, the images were created by listing Docker images using the Docker image. Okay, as I showed just before. So if you run Docker images command, it will list all the images in this local. Okay, so we have solution and we have XDB image and we have NMSSQL. Okay, Solar images, all these things you can find here with the versions. Okay, so if with any changes, you can create your own versions, and we can keep both versions here. So hope you understood, right? So how the Sitecore image is created. Okay, any question, guys, so far? Okay, so we'll move to the next topic. So we've seen how to build Sitecore solution, and we also seen how to build a Sitecore custom images, right? So now I'll show you how to include additional Sitecore models when you build custom Sitecore images. For this demo, we'll include SPE and XSA. You can follow the same process for other models as well. Okay. So first we'll understand Sitecore model asset image. Okay. Sitecore provides officially supported model asset image that contain required files and script you need to install Sitecore model when you build your custom Sitecore image. Similar to your solution, these asset images are intended as a source during the build and they are not used at runtime. Okay. So each model asset image contains resources with this file structure. Okay. So C model role content. Okay, contains content to overlay the base Sitecore images. Here role means the CD, CM, all these things. We will be having dedicated folder for each role, and under that they will be having content associated to that particular role. Okay, and we'll be having C model DB folder. It contains DACPack files with the changes to database required by the model. And we'll be having C model Solar folder contains files used to deploy Solar cores required for the model. And tools contains additional tools and scripts to be executed during the Docker image build process. Okay. Although you never run asset image as a container, you can still explore the file system if you run the image with the interactive cell, as I showed earlier, right? So if you want, I can quickly show that as well. I'll show you how to see the folder and files inside XSA image, asset image. Yes, we have model folder. See here we have a folder for each role, and we have DB folder contain database backup. Solar cores will be there in Solar folder, and the related scripts will be there in the tools folder. Okay, this is how you can explore the image, asset image. Okay. To install a given Sitecore model, use the resources to deploy files, database, and index changes to the base Sitecore runtime images during your custom build process by adding the required Docker file instruction to your Sitecore runtime Docker file. Okay. So now we can add Docker file instruction on the required role such as CMCD, right? So we need XSA to be installed in CM and CD, right? PowerShell only in CM. So required roles to be there in SQL and Solar as well. Okay. First we'll see CM role. Okay. You can see the model assets image for SPE and XSA are brought in at the start of the instruction. So SPE content are copied, XSA content and tools copied, then here, right? So then the initialize content PS1 is triggered. Okay. So this is how you can add instruction to copy the required files. Okay. So if you look at the Docker compose override file, so from the CM service, we are passing the Sitecore base runtime asset images for PowerShell and XSA as an argument. Okay. So this is how we have to pass the parameter, and we have to get the required images in the Docker file instruction, and we can play with that. MySQL and Solar are configured in the similar way, right? Okay. So you can explore that as well. Okay. So fine. It's time to spin up the container with the custom images. Okay. So before Before you start spinning up the images, you have to run the init ps1 script to perform this operation if you're not done already. Okay, so I have already done that. Okay, so now using the docker compose up command, we can start spinning up all the containers which is defined in the docker compose files. Okay, so it will take a few minutes to up the containers. Let it run. So hope you have understand now how to create Sitecore custom images and spin up uh, container based on the custom images, right? Okay. Okay. Next, I'll explain how to configure our Sitecore solution. Okay. So you can deploy files from Visual Studio directly into a locally running containers. Okay. You can use this during development to ensure efficient feedback loops as opposed to rebuilding your custom Sitecore image each time, right? So first we'll understand the solution structure. So this is the diagram. Okay, you can see to understand how it works. But I can show you a demo. We have a deploy folder. It contains environment folders. Okay, each of these environment folders serve as a destination for your code deployment and a source for the development entry point watch script. Okay, so in this case, the website folder serves Sitecore website containers such as CMCD and so on, right? And Xconnect folder serves Sitecore Xconnect containers such as Xconnect and other related services. Okay, the Docker example repository contain solution which is set up with two projects that demonstrate file deployment scenarios. Okay, so you can go to this custom image and open the Docker example solution. Okay, so I have already opened it. It has two projects, right? One is website and one is Xconnect folder. This website folder project facilitates the build and publish of website artifacts. Okay, the Xconnect facilitates the build and publish of Xconnect artifact. In Helix solution, the railway example, okay, the Docker example, the website and Xconnect project are often broken out into separate environment models, right? And one or more project and future models, but they are combined here for this scale of simplicity. Okay, so if you see the publishing profile of the website folder, it's point to Docker deploy website folder. Okay, so this folder points to this folder. The same way Xconnect point to this folder. See here, deploy Xconnect folder. Okay. So here I will use file publish in real world solution, right? So you may use more robust deployment mechanisms such as TDS or Helix publishing pipeline or your own custom approach, whatever. Okay. However, the end goal is same, to get your files into the appropriate Docker deploy environment subfolder. That's it. Okay. So to enable the runtime file deployment in your Sitecore image, right? So the entry point script and the watch scripts are copied to your image and are therefore available at runtime. Okay. So if you look at the CM container, right? Um, that the deploy, this is the path for the deploy folder, right? The website is mounted to C deploy folder. Okay. So this is the folder. Okay, the watch script always looking. If there is any file in this folder, it will take that file into the www root. Okay, so this is how it works. Okay, so whenever you publish the changes, the files will be deployed to website folder. Then it will be moved to the container deploy folder with the volume mounted. Okay, then the watch script will run and it will take the files into the www root. So that is what it will explain in the image. Okay, so you have your code. Okay, and you will build it, and we have mount folder. Okay, that folder will take the file in, and we have watch script. That watch script will take the file to www root for the CM or CD, whatever how you configure. Okay. So the Xconnect also configured in the similar way. Okay, you can explore that. Okay, still it's running. Not sure why it's take this much time. Okay, so whatever changes you want to do. Okay, so for example, we have layout. Okay, so in the layout you can change something. And if you publish, then this file will be pushed to the website folder, our deploy path, and from there it will be taken to the respective containers. So then you can immediately see the changes reflected. Okay, so now the container is up and running. Okay, so let it run. We'll open CD server. Okay, see here we are able to set up our first custom Sitecore instance. Okay, so here if you go to content editor, slow. See here, it's up and running. Okay, I'll do a small change, right? I have already done. I have added one text. Okay, I'll publish this. So container is already running. We can make sure our changes are coming. Okay, the publishing is done. Okay, now I'll refresh the CD instance of the home page. It's loading. It's too slow. Okay. Okay, so quickly some other topics we can cover. Okay, so until it gets loaded. Okay, so we have the concept called volume. Volume is another key concept when working with container, as I showed, right? So there are many occasions when it's useful to share files between the host and container. A couple of good example are when working with static asset, you don't want to rebuild the image. Okay, so and you no need to recreate your container to see the changes. When working with secret files that you might not want to be included in an image. Okay, so simply you can place that file and it will be available in the container. Volumes are created to solve this problem. They allow you to designate a folder on the host machine to be shared and available in the container, right? So this is a powerful feature. Okay, as any changes you make to the content of the volume and that are instantly reflected inside the container. Then we have a networking concept. Okay, Docker create a network between the containers to allow them to communicate with each other. Okay, so we have entry point. Entry point provides the command to execute when the container is first run. All Sitecore runtime images have default entry point configured as part of the Docker file instruction. So the images are ready to run. So you can find the Docker default entry point of any image with the Docker inspect command. Okay, so you can explore. So Docker inspect and you can give the image container name. Then you can find all the containers. Okay. Watch script and the companion entry point, just what included in the tools image. Okay, so you can explore this tools image, you can find all this detail. Okay, so yeah, and we have I would like to explain a few tools which will be helpful when you're working with Docker. Okay, so the first one is okay, yeah, it's up now. See here, our changes are reflected immediately on the running container. Okay, so if you uh, check. See here we have tenant and tenant folder. So XSA module also successfully installed with this. Okay. So once this containers ups and running. Okay. So with Docker PS, you can list all the running containers, all the containers in this local system. Okay. So here you can see the container ID, the image used, when it created, what is the status, one watch, which port it's running, all these things you can find here. Okay. So coming back to the tool, okay, the first one is Docker for desktop. Okay, Docker desktop for Windows is a Docker designed to run on Windows. Okay, it's a native Windows application for that. Provides an easy to use development environment for building, shipping, and running Dockerized app. Okay, Docker desktop for Windows uses Windows native Hyper-V visualization and networking, and it is fastest and most reliable way to develop Docker apps on Windows. Okay, Docker desktop for Windows supports running both Linux and Windows containers. Okay, so if you from here you can switch to Linux and Windows container. Now it's in Sitecore, we are running on Windows container. So here you can find all the list of images, all the containers, volume detail, etc. Okay. Then we have Visual Studio container window, another tool. Okay. So if you go to view, other window, containers, so let it refresh. My install is slow. Okay, so here you can see all the containers and images will be shown here. Okay, and, once this refreshed. Okay, Visual Studio 2019 version 16.4 preview 2 or later is required. If you are using earlier version of Visual Studio 2019, then you have to install container window extension. Then only you can get these provisions. Okay. So using this VS Code container window, you can view the environment files, and you can see the port mappings, logs, files, everything you can see. Okay, so yeah, let it come. Okay, we'll continue. We already reached the time. Okay, I can quickly complete. Then we have Visual Studio Core Docker extension. Okay, so if you install that, here you can see the containers which are running and the images and the network volume, all the details. Okay, so you can using this feature also, this tool also, you can play with Docker containers. Okay, then we have Portainer. Okay, so to enable the Portainer. Okay, so Portainer is an open source management. Already have opened. So this is the one. Open source management UI for Docker. Okay, Portainer makes it easier for you to manage your Docker container. It allows you to manage container images, network, and volumes. Okay, as other tools are supporting. Login. You can also connect to the remote. Okay, so see here we have containers, so we can stop, start. Okay, you can kill this and you can restart container. Everything you can do. Okay. So these are the four tools you can leverage while working with the local Docker. Okay. I think some issue. I'll restart. Okay. So to debug code running in containers, you can use Visual Studio. Okay, as you know, right? So here you can use debug, attach to process. Okay, so here it will, if you select, if you choose Docker, and if you click find, it will list all the containers running. Then you can select one and you can attach to process. Okay, let it come. Then the last topic, the configuration transform, right? So as I said, right, in the previous session, Sitecore implementation often require modification of the configuration file, right? That you cannot change with the Sitecore configuration pasting. It's such as web config, connection string, domain, layer, etc. Right? So in that case, you can use XDD transform files. Okay. We'll see how to apply XDD based configuration transform when you build your Sitecore or Docker images. Okay, so we have two type of transform. One is solution transform. If the transform file is located, so this is how you can debug. Okay, you can select W3 root. W3 WP occur process, then you can attach, then you are able to debug. So if the transform file is located in your solution, then it is called solution transform. Okay, so see here we have one transform file in solution source website, this web config. Okay, this transform file, and we have one transform file local to the Docker file. Okay, so in this case for CM. So this is called role transform. Okay, so for this demo, these two XTD configuration files are used for the web config, where the custom HTTP header is implemented. Okay, so if you look at here, for this role, we have mentioned the HTTP header values role transform. Okay, for solution transform, is mentioned as solution transform. Okay, so we are copying the transform files, right? So while it's copied, okay, so if you inspect the website, CD website, see the Docker example, the HTTP getter value, the solution transform is added. So this is for CD server. Okay, so we haven't applied any So the solution transform is applied. For CM, we applied on role transform. So here we are expecting in CM instance as a role transform. Let it come. Yeah, came finally. See here in Visual Studio, using this container window, we can see all the containers running. Okay, and you can also see the images. Okay, which is used. So with this, okay, so here you can find for CD, this is the environment variables used. Okay, and what ports it's running, 80 ports running. You can see the volumes and you can see the files. So the container files we can explore using the Visual Studio, but the assert image you can only explore using the command line. Okay, as I showed earlier, and we can see the logs. Okay, and you can stop and restart, and you can start, and from here also you can attach the debugger to the particular container codes. Okay, so this is one of the way. Okay, so CM is up. Okay, so if you inspect CM, see here it's role transform. Okay, so this is how you have to apply the transform configuration transform. Okay. Okay, hope I have covered everything. Yeah, yeah, good. Any questions, guys? I think I'm done from my side.
I guess you have covered all those things pretty much well. I hope, Nisar. Maybe if we have any question, we'll definitely get back to you.
Yeah, sure, Vinodini. Yeah, thank you.
So it's a very interesting session, Nisar. The building the custom images, everything on Docker. Maybe we'll explore it more. Thank you for the amazing session. It was so interesting and so informative. Extending my thanks to all the participants who have joined. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vinodini. Thank you all. Bye.